All right. So we are on part 3 for chapter 4, socialization. And we are going to start by discussing the 6 methods of socialization. I know you can only see 3 here on the screen, or also known as agents of socialization. And I would highly encourage you to write down and memorize these methods of socialization. Hint, hint, because it may be important to you, hint, hint, for a future exam. So we're going to start with the family. First and foremost, the family is the most influential agent of socialization. I asked you earlier on in your quick write, who do you think has influenced you the most? And most or many of you, I'm sure, wrote family. Your families are, of course, influenced by their cultural background. And in addition to that, the moment your mom or your dad takes you home swaddled up in that pink or blue blanket, your gender and your race are also starting to be socialized onto you. Secondly, you have your school. This is where you learn rewards and punishments. I know you're already learning that at home. But in school, you are then able to be taught the values and customs of larger society if that is not applied already in your home. Children are socialized into conventional gender roles in school. So I remember my very first day of kindergarten, and I remember walking in and being very nervous and excited. And the first thing I did was look for the girls who were all huddled in the corner playing in the little make-believe kitchen. And it's just something that's reinforced in school. Even when they, take away some of those gender-specific toys, you find that kids actually find a way to still make other toys gender-specific. So if you were to tell your son, hey, no playing war, take away toy guns and things like that, you might find your son using a spatula as a gun. That's not in all. Children have minds of their own as well, and you'll find that some boys won't take on full, male gender roles, and same with females. But for the most part, a lot of these conventional gender roles are influenced onto you through school. As you grow older, and I know that if you remember being a teenager or have a teenage sibling or child, I'm sure you're very well aware of how important peer groups are to influencing your teenagers or preteens development. And it is very, very important at such an age. As children grow older, too, these peer groups increasingly assume the role of significant other. So like I mentioned earlier, significant other could be your best friend. One last quick little definition right here in the bottom right-hand corner. You have gender roles, which I have already used in class and I'm sure you are familiar with, but so you can take away the definition. It's expectations regarding proper behavior, attitudes, and activities of males and females. So these are generalized expectations. That does not mean that everybody falls into these particular gender roles all the time. All right, so next on the list we have the mass media and technology. First little point you can see up on the bullet here is that technology socializes families into multitasking as a social norm. So I don't have you in front of me to actually verify, but I'm pretty sure that some of you may be perhaps on your phones if you're using your computer for this video lecture, or vice versa if you're using your phones for this video lecture. Maybe you're browsing the internet on your computer. Some of you may have the TV on in front of you. Some of you may be listening to Pandora or Spotify music. And so that's what I mean with multitasking as a social norm. 68% of children have a television in their bedrooms. I don't know what I would have done if I didn't have a TV in my room as a teenager. My bedroom was my sanctuary, and I'm sure for many of you who are parents, you might actually really appreciate and value the fact that your child may have a TV in their bedroom. But it's a pretty startlingly high number. Nearly half of youths ages 8 to 18 use the internet every single day, and this was from 2011. I guarantee that number has grown. So the media has a large influence there's some good things that the media does for us. So through TV shows and through the internet, we're able to see new cultures. We're able to dip into the life of somebody growing up in China. We're able to learn about inner city life or about farm life. So it can be a great method of communication for you and a great way to learn about other cultures. Of course, we do have some negative effects of the media as well. I'm sure many people think about body image and how much the media has influenced, especially females, in body image, and perhaps how that could potentially lead to disorders like anorexia and bulimia. So the media has certainly had some negative and positive effects, but it's pretty difficult in our society to deny that the media has served as an agent of socialization for us, a way in which we have grown and learn and become a part of this world and become ourselves. The last two agents or methods of socialization would be religion and the state. If you are raised in a religious family, then certainly traditions in your family are a part of your socialization process. As far as the state would be your governing body around you. So the government, who establishes laws that you adhere to, which also is a part of your socialization process. And last, one of the most important agents of socialization, but not the most important, would be the workplace. Consider transitioning from a student to employee and thinking about how much you learn during that process from being a student who perhaps could be a passive student, not required to engage or produce much other than the bare minimum, to being completely 100% self-reliant, where your livelihood, your paycheck depends on your performance. And for some people, just learning soft skills and professionalism and the ways to communicate and ask for a raise, for example, all of those things are something that you don't learn in school and that you learn through experience. So although on average a person changes jobs, I believe it's cited in your book, up to 11 times in their lives, careers, they change their careers 11 times in their lives, that first transition into the workplace is a very crucial process of socialization. And just adding on an additional little chart to the media and its role that it plays, you can see that the internet has become a new normal. And I do have to mention that this chart from your book is a little bit outdated because it was last updated in 2009, but it does show a nice range from 1999 to 2009, where you can see how much internet usage at home has grown. I believe I have a question for you in the handout, and it asks that you look at each of these statistics, so all 6, and write down the number of which that apply to you. So if you have a computer at home, that's 1. If you have a computer at home and internet access at home, you'll write 2. And if all 6 apply to you, you'll write 6. So when we come back, we could share where we are on this table. Okay, so the last major section of Chapter 4 is the life course. So we're going to define a couple terms, and then we'll look at the person's life course kind of in a quick, fast way. So the first term here for you is rites of passage, and it is a means of dramatizing and validating changes in a person's status. Some examples of this can be a quinceañera, it can be graduation, it can be getting married, for example. So these are pretty significant moments in a person's lives that say they've moved from one role into another role. And the life course approach is just really looking at social factors that influence people throughout their entire lives. And an interesting point, and we use the life course approach when we covered these next few points in this chapter. An interesting point that's worth noting before we start talking about all the different courses throughout the life is that the most difficult socialization challenges occur in later years. And it kind of seems right when you think about that, because in later years you're approaching death, you're coping with disabilities, you're retiring, you're being treated and being taken care of, and you're assessing your accomplishments in life. So it can be a very difficult time. An interesting rite of passage that we're going to cover in class is Rumspringa, which is a rite of passage that Amish children experience when they go into their adolescent years, where they're able to participate in secular activities like going to parties, listening to music, spending money and shopping and drinking and smoking and whatever it is they want to do. So I have a couple questions that I want you to have answered so that when we watch a video in class you're all set. The first question is, do you or anyone you know come from a subculture that rejects mainstream American culture? And I have an idea that some of you have already mentioned people you know that have experienced this. So if so, describe the communities and norms. The community's norms and values. The second question is, why do you think so many Amish youths return to their family's way of life after rebelling against it? So I kind of gave you a little bit of a hint. You may find after we watch a video in class that a lot of these kids, they just go back to their original ways that they were raised. So why do you think that's so? So go ahead and pause it, answer those questions, and then we'll move on. Another question I have for you is, what do you believe are the most important milestones into transitioning into adulthood? I know that for me personally, my most important milestone that made me feel like, okay, I'm an adult now, was moving out of my parents' house. So I want you to take a quick moment. If you need to pause it, go ahead and pause it again and write down what you think is the most important milestone in transitioning into adulthood. And then you can see here where everybody else fell on the spectrum. So you have the milestone on the left, also indicated as the life event. So you have marriage, parenthood, etc., etc. What age those people who were surveyed thought that those milestones should happen at, and then the percentage of people who viewed them very, very important. And so the highest percentage you see here is 90.2%, which is completion of formal schooling, and it's expected to be done at the age of 22. I don't know about you, but I was not 22 when I was finished with my degree. So when you are rehearsing a future occupation or social relationship, so if you're getting ready to get married, if you're getting ready to graduate, if you're getting ready to start a job, you are experiencing anticipatory socialization. Some of you are actually already doing that here at school because you are getting ready for a job and you do practice professionalism on a daily basis. Another term for you to know is re-socialization. So if you are transitioning into a new role, you may need to discard former behavior and patterns in order to transition effectively, which is known as re-socialization. So let's say, for example, you are going from being married to being a divorcee, so you need to be re-socialized into that single life. Or let's say that you are going from being a sinner to a born-again Christian. There's certainly some behavior that you need to discard of in order to adapt that new life. In addition to anticipatory socialization and re-socialization, you'll need to understand the term total institution. And you can see on the top right-hand side, it looks like military members marching. And military is a great example of total institution. A total institution is a place or an organization that regulates all aspects of a person's life under a single authority. Many of us do not ever see the inside of a total institution because if not the military, then the other great example of that would be jail or prison. And during which, even whether it's jail, so not by choice, or military, yes by choice, hopefully, you experience what's known as a degradation ceremony, which is a ritual in which the individual becomes secondary. So you're no longer individualistic. You don't get to wear what you want, wear your hair how you want, wear whatever shoes you want. So it's the ritual in which your individualism is kind of taken away from you. It's not always degrading. It's just a way in which you can become more uniform and in line with the rest of the people in your group. And so as much not to be one who stands out. Okay, so if you need to go back and review some of the terms that we covered here in part 3, there will be a part 4. It'll be very short, and we'll pick up right where we left off.